everyone, welcome back to Alkaline Hydroxide 784. Today we will be talking about something everyone wants yet willingly give up, I guess. Yep, it's privacy. So what are you waiting for? Let's invade the privacy of the word privacy, I guess, and understand it fundamentally. So from the definition, we can get that the idea of privacy is something that's either some kind of secrecy, like you keep something secret, or you have like a freedom from intrusion, like you want to do your own thing in your room and you don't want anyone to enter, or you're away from public attention, basically having private matters for that matter, or things that you don't want other people to know about. Okay, actually a secrecy, but you get the idea. And of course, when you're talking about privacy, we're going to be talking about privacy from people specifically, and not really about animals or other living beings. Yeah, okay, cool. So now let's talk about why privacy matters. In the old days, many things were indeed private matters. There was a lot of space and people were few to come by. Then people got crowded together in civilizations. They lost their available private space. Then stuff like newspapers became commonplace. It lessened the privacy of mostly prominent figures. And then technologies like lights and phones came about. They made it easier for people to communicate despite it being dark and despite their physical distance. This reduced privacy even more. Then, as technology became even more advanced, internet came about, and over time, privacy has been slowly eroding as people freely gave out their lives online. Today, information is king. Information holds a lot of power, including the power to keep one alive. Okay, that actually sounds a bit drastic, but another way to put it is that information can be life-changing, or it can actually affect your life pretty dramatically. In such a situation, I'm pretty sure that everyone wants their privacy. Right, so is privacy obsolete? Not entirely. It depends on what you consider as your privacy. I mean, you still have private space in your home as long as there's no pervert inside, like installing a camera in there or something. Right? Oh wait, I totally forgot that some phone apps randomly take pictures of you as well. And social media or private messaging, which may not be so private after all, am I right? Could spell doom to your intimate pictures if you're not careful. For the most part though, it seems like there's still some essence of privacy at home. But where privacy might be almost obsolete, well, it's online of course. Your data there in emails, social media, Google Drive, national databases, and it's also there in many other places. And the biggest problem is when these things are hacked. And even worse, when a national database is hacked. Which is why SingHealth is actually trying to reinforce security, as I heard. Like they're trying to get people to, build a better system. Speaking of SingHealth, let's go into the places where privacy concerns pop up. First off, the medical system. In the medical system, they have to consolidate all the medical history into one portal because nowadays people go to many different hospitals for many different things, and therefore you need to consolidate all of this data into one portal so that it's easy to access for doctors, which is good for that purpose, I guess. But when such platforms are hacked, like in the SingHealth hacking, privacy is breached. Next thing, wearables. Well, those are the things that you can wear, like your fitness tracker and all those things. And they definitely collect a lot of data. Like while you're wearing it, it's literally collecting data every second. If they go to hospitals, well, it's okay because the hospitals are there to treat you. Unless the hospitals are commercialized kind of things, then that's a problem. But for the most part, they're genuine. But if the data goes to somewhere that's like where the company is selling the data to someone else to, advertise some medicines or stuff like that, well, are they breaching your privacy? Or are they just, making the most out of their data here? What are they doing? Oh, we don't know. Yeah, so the next thing is DNA test. Well, we did talk about them in one of the previous episodes. The thing is, when you do a DNA test, you literally give this set of information that made you, which is DNA, to a company. So they actually, like, the company not only gets to, tell you a bunch of information about some medical conditions that you may or may not even have, and like it's not just that lah. They have the data that you gave them in the form of DNA, which is actually quite hardy in itself. It doesn't degrade that easily. So yeah, you literally give. If you do a DNA test, remember that you're giving a very important piece of information to a company that could, in theory, sell that information to someone else, who will then try to advertise some medicine to you. So yeah, so that's for DNA test. Then the next thing would be the current situation where we are talking about contact tracing. So for contact tracing, there's an argument about privacy versus safety. In this case, I would say safety while we have minimum compromise of privacy. So that's really the best thing to do. In this case, something like Trace Together seems to be good because it doesn't take your name or anything, and instead just takes saves the data as this weird numerical gibberish thing, which somehow manages to help connect back to whoever you made contact with. Whereas like a tracker, like in the later post, would be like legitimately just tracking your location coordinates and also seems to raise some privacy concerns. But honestly, we Singaporeans don't seem to mind giving up our privacy to our government, so whatever, no one cares. Anyways, with all of this data and stuff, another interesting question comes up. Is it okay to use this data in terms of overall trends, like whatever data I mentioned just now, like the wearables especially, or the medical health data? So what I mean is you can use it for big data applications. So is it a good thing to do that? Well, my argument is to look at it this way. No one really cares about your everyday details if they're doing big data. Like the data analyst doesn't care about whether you went to this place at this time on this day, but they're more interested in broad demographic data and in causality versus like a causality, or is it correlation and things like that. So it's like epidemiological studies and things like that could use such data. And this thing can be incredibly useful. But the only problem is that we need to do it carefully because, of course, the people doing the analysis doesn't care about your personal, like super personal bit of your data. But there are other people who care about your super personal data, aka the hackers and bad actors. So they need to be very careful to prevent any bad actor from stealing the data for nefarious purposes or anything else funny like that happening. And they also have the challenge of getting permission from many people precisely because there's this danger of people hacking it and creating a data breach or privacy breach for that matter. So yeah, speaking of collecting data without permission, you do realize that when you go to some places on the internet, something is actually collecting where you go and suggesting ads based on that. Do you think that's a breach of privacy? If so, is it a serious one or is it a harmless one? Well, we don't really know. Like, I don't really know what to say about it. At the moment, it doesn't seem like anything harmful is being done, except for the fact that you get a lot of unwanted advertisement, but okay. But apart from browsing history, another data that is the worry of experts, especially, well, it's the humble password. Why do you ask? Well, because most people are either not talented in writing creative and unique passwords, or they just don't care. Like, people write the same password for like 5 different accounts, then yeah, like hacking one means that you can literally break into all of the other accounts, which seems very dangerous. So yeah, please use better passwords and use a lot of diverse passwords. Anyways, so one way is to ditch passwords altogether. Like, in terms of solving this problem, one way is to ditch the passwords altogether And the other way is to use fancy cryptography methods and two-pass verification. So we'll be talking about cryptography in another episode, but the general idea is to use like big prime numbers and randomize the piece of information using a certain algorithm every time. So the same algorithm will be at the sender and the receiver port, and the two algorithms will always be producing the same set of numbers every time and making sure that the data that they get is correct. Hopefully this will, lessen the chance of breaking through that thing, breaking through the system and getting the data. Okay, so earlier I mentioned those phone apps that can take pictures of you, right? In the same way, many apps ask for many different kinds of permissions and access points. So these access points could actually compromise your data, just saying. Don't really panic though, like don't immediately start panicking and be like, oh no, have I literally given up all my data to some app? Well, maybe not, but do look through all of your apps and check what permissions you have given them, especially to the ones that you hardly ever use and just like some random game that you played one day and then you just ignored after that. Yeah, so just go and check what permissions you've given it. Yeah, like that's about it. I think the only thing that really scary is not scary, like really prominent nowadays is the news about the face swapping apps. So I've heard that there was this article about this Chinese face swapping app that allows you to literally deepfake your face onto a celebrity. So this actually brought up a lot of privacy concerns. So if you want, you can look at the article yourself. And we're literally going to be talking about that now. So basically what is more serious than your apps taking your data is, well, people using your pics from social media. Well, do remember that there's even debate on whether anything you actually delete from social media is truly deleted. So do think before you type or post anything on your social media, of course. So if like people try to take your pictures and since you're dirty minded or something, they could literally deepfake your face onto some pornography. Well, literally they put they get some female faces and then put it onto some pornography. Seems very not nice at all. Well, so if that's not invasion of privacy, because okay, we know that the photo is literally there on social media for everyone to see. However, we do have to agree that the photo was used in a very less than intended, in a very humiliating way in a sense. So I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it is right to be doing that, even if you were to argue that the photo was already there for people to use. There is some right that the owner of the photo has, such that you shouldn't be using it in such humiliating ways without their permission especially. So if this is not an invasion of privacy, I don't know what is. Right, so if all of these ways your privacy can be breached doesn't really scare you, this one apparently will. Big brother. Honestly, I don't get it. I don't understand why people feel so scared to give their data to the government. I know that they're worried that the government will suddenly become like some tyrant and then control everyone. But I'd rather we give our data to the government than to some company or something else, because companies tend to be more nefarious than the government is. So yeah, and the government itself has many checks to prevent such a tyranny from happening to begin with. So yeah, right, by tyrant I mean like not really authoritarian or something, but more like evil in the sense. I don't expect the government to become evil anytime soon in most countries for that matter. So yeah, and I mean this in a general way. I'm not referring to any specific country or anything of that sort. Anyways, let's talk about different contexts though, because in different countries the governments have different levels of authoritarianness and stuff like that. So the way that the people behave is different in all those countries. So if we talk about China, right, like China is a place where the people literally live their lives under government control and stuff. In a way they may not really like it, we don't really know, but at the same time they still go around about their lives because one, they do have some level of economic stability, I guess, and two, they don't really want to be silenced by the government there. Yeah, so they still just go about doing their stuff. They don't really have a choice. So here in Singapore, well, maybe we do have a choice, but for some reason we are very willing to take the choice to just giving up our data. So yeah, but our reason is slightly different, which is because one, we haven't faced any bad consequences yet, and two, we have had like economic prosperity from giving up our freedoms and stuff like that. So I guess it's that kind of reason why Singaporeans are willing to give up their data to the government questioningly. Which, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing or anything. It's just a thing. But if you look at USA, because always look at the USA ones. When long ago when Snowden found about the NSA looking at data, two things happened. There was a backlash, and the idea of FBI agents looking at your search history or looking through your camera became a meme. Like, seriously. Well, that's US for you folks. Like, they know how to raise a big, brouhaha over this whole thing, and at the same time they know how to make a joke out of it. Okay, anyways, but talking about the term, basically it reminds me of the show that introduced this term. The show itself is called Big Brother, and it's originally a Dutch show and then became adapted in many different countries and with many different names as well. So in this show, there's a bunch of people who have to live in the same house, and there's like cameras everywhere, so you can literally see everything they're doing. Of course, not the ultra private stuff, but more of like in the common areas, there's cameras everywhere. So every conversation is recorded, and all the interactions can be seen for the world, like it's there for the world to see. So they can see how that person behaves, that like the character and stuff like that. And the people eliminate each other one by one until one person becomes the winner. So if you haven't heard of this show, because I literally just said it's adapted in many countries, if you haven't even heard of one of those variations, then well, I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that's it for today. I think this is like the shortest GPO video. So in conclusion, privacy really does matter, and you really care about privacy a lot. But at the same time, we also don't seem to care about privacy a lot because we're kind of giving it up in the internet every day. Like even in Facebook, people kind of accidentally gave up some data when using those those funny quizzes or something that predicts something based on your sign or your horoscope or something. And also like apps like the face swapping app kind of do have a risk of leaking your data somewhere. And even just being on the internet really gives out some of your data. Even if it's not the most personal data, there's definitely some data of you, like your trace on the internet, that could be incriminating to you in the future, or it could be harmful in the future. We don't really know what will truly happen, and but for the most part, it doesn't seem like anything bad has happened yet. So okay, we just continue to give out more data every day. And as I mentioned earlier, right at the beginning, information is king. It is quite important nowadays, and people are trying to buy information for money, and they make a business out of that. So like all of the advertisements on YouTube and everything are also based on this information as well. So a lot of things are actually being funded by binary bits of data that are literally floating through the internet, like the actual internet, basically the lines that connect different computer databases around the world. So yeah, that's something to think about. And another thing to think about is whether you care about privacy or not, because people might be like, oh, this thing will compromise our privacy and stuff like that. But as I mentioned earlier, we tend to be very willingly giving up our privacy at the same time. So do we really care about privacy anymore? Does it truly matter to us? And or if some of it matters but not all of it, then which one matters more than, like which forms of privacy matter more than others? So do think about those issues as well. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're done. So if you found this video useful and you think this slightly faster video might be better for you, then I'll try to make my videos a bit shorter and faster. And yeah, if you found this video useful, please press the like button and subscribe. And with that, I would like to say thank you and bye. Sorry, I almost said subscribe again. I don't know why. But yeah, thank you and bye.